Hello and welcome to the big picture. As the new government at the centre prepares itself to present its first budget next month, all eyes will be on its approach towards the social sector programs. During the last 10 years, the allocations for the social sector improved dramatically. New programs like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Right to Food, among others, have been the flagship programs of the UPA government. Tens of thousands of crores have been spent on the social sector programs in these last 10 years, which have had mixed success in its implementation. So how will and should the new government approach these social sector programs? What should be the priority and focus? Is there any need for any major changes in the approach? We will discuss all this today with NC Saxena, former member National Advisory Committee, Mihir Shah, former member Planning Commission, and Amitabh Behar, Secretary National Social Watch. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Saxena, you think that most of these programs are such that they will have to be continued?
Well, the programs certainly need some kind of overhaul, because many programs which are not doing well in the field also have a design flaw, like the ICDS, NREGA, PDS, sanitation. But because on the whole India is not likely to achieve its Millennium Development Goals in respect of health, gender issues, sanitation, etc., I think the programs need to continue. But one would have to do three things. First of all, you have to remove the design flaw, improve the design. Secondly, you have to monitor these programs very rigorously. Unfortunately, programs which are doing well are being monitored, but programs which do not do well are forgotten, they are not monitored. And thirdly, in order to increase its allocation, government would also have to increase its overall revenues. Our fiscal situation is very precarious, and unless we also improve revenues, we will not be able to find funds for many such programs. And lastly, I would say the balance in the UPA got between the two sets of programs, productive programs which give you benefit after a long time, and safety net programs, which are also necessary, like NREGA, like pensions, etc. The balance got tilted in favor of safety net programs. We need to prioritize the productive programs like skill building, education, health, nutrition. These are the programs on which we need to give focus.
Well, it's very interesting that you are saying all these things. I'll come back to Mr. Mihir Shah. You know, some of the things which Mr. Saxena has said clearly, points a finger at the way the government has handled some of these programs. You were in the Planning Commission during all these years. So it's some kind of a pointing of finger at the Planning Commission also.
Well, a lot of work went into the redesign that Dr. Saxena is talking about of many of these important programs. I'll take the example of the NREGA. In 2012, the government appointed a committee under my chairmanship, and we suggested wide-ranging changes in this program. My only disappointment was that the time it took to get these changes on the ground was very long, and therefore the benefits of these changes are not yet so visible on the ground. They are visible in parts, but very important changes were made, for example, in the fact that NREGA should now become a productivity-focused program. The focus should be on enhancing productivity of agriculture. We introduced 30 new works which were all to do with elements which would improve agricultural productivity, water security, and what we said, in fact it's said in the 12th plan document, that the program's success lies in its own demise. And I'll just take a second to explain this. The fact is that a very large proportion of people who work on this program as workers are actually small and marginal farmers. They are forced to work on this program because the productivity of their own land has become so low that they are not able to meet their basic needs of life through farming. And what we have done, what we have shown through the successes of NREGA is that where productive assets are created under this program, people are able to go back to farming, go back to other productive livelihoods through the process of skill development and productivity enhancement, and therefore the dependence of people on NREGA can come down over time if the program is implemented well.
No, but as far as the NREGA is concerned, what you're talking about, this 2 years back, 2012, you came out with this report. Even before that, I think in 2011, Agriculture Minister was talking about it. I think in the budget also, they were mentioned about expanding the scope of NREGA and things like that. Why did it take such a long time for it to get implemented?
No, absolutely. I think this is something which the government has to answer for.
You're talking of productivity, no?
Yes, absolutely. See, what the Agriculture Minister raised, we answered that question. He said that, you are in conflict with agriculture.
Right.
What we pointed to him was that 70% of NREGA work actually takes place in the off-farm season. Most of the work happens once the agriculture
That is what is intended for also.
Yes. And also that once you focus it on productivity enhancing works, the conflict is gone. There is a synergy between NREGA and agriculture. But what you said is correct, that it should have happened much earlier in the UPA 2 term. It took a long time for it to get onto the ground. Of course, there are natural reasons for that. After all, the states are the implementers. But I, for one, was not a person who was pointing fingers at the states. I thought the states cooperated very much in the implementation of NREGA. In fact, it was ironical that many of the best implementers of NREGA were at that time the opposition states.
Absolutely.
Yes, actually, I don't agree with this viewpoint. In NREGA,
which part of it you don't agree?
Well, he said that NREGA should be used for productive programs. Now, I am all for watershed development programs which will improve productivity of agriculture. But there should be a program for that. If you are going to fund watershed development program from NREGA funds, then, accountability gets totally lost. Because only in NREGA, only employment is being monitored. Assets are never monitored. I have been to many villages. Let me finish it.
Yeah.
Many villages. You ask for a record 3 years back that a pond which was dug in 2010, do you have record? Do you know whether it's functioning well? No, sir. We have submitted this record that so many jobs are created, whether they were created or not. So that's one. Secondly, if you look at the interstate distribution of NREGA funds, I have a chart with me. You'll be surprised to know in 2013-14, if you divide the total funds spent in the state by the number of rural poor in that state, because the program is meant for rural poor, it comes to only 391 rupees in Behar. And it's
391 rupees per head?
Per rural poor. That means only 3 days of job. And it is 10,000 rupees in Himachal Pradesh and Kerala and Jammu and Kashmir. States which are not poor, there, a lot of money is being spent. States which are poor like UP, Behar, Jharkhand, Assam, even Maharashtra, Odisha, fund expenditure is not being done.
This is what you call a design flaw?
This is the design flaw, yes, because you have to say that in tribal areas, you have to say in tribal areas, please create 200 days of jobs. I will be very happy. And you must also restrict the flow of funds to Kerala and Jammu and Kashmir.
That this you have been telling on our programs only, you have been saying.
And also the first point which I made, that you fund directly, you fund watershed development programs.
Don't fund it through NREGA.
I have just been to villages in Maharashtra and Lucknow last week, and I found out that one of the worst programs which are being implemented are programs in agriculture. All that money is getting lost in
See, there are 2 points. What Dr. Saxena is making, I think he's absolutely right. The monitoring systems were weak, but we are progressively moving towards IT-based solutions where actually photographs are now being made mandatory. What you said exactly, that assets should be recorded, they are going to be uploaded on the website. It's happening in many states already. And that ties in with the other point he made. He's absolutely right that at times the poorer states were using less money from NREGA. The reason is very simple. It's not that the targeting is wrong, it's the state capacities are weak. The point is, when the performance of these programs is monitored, what matters is the capacity that exists in the state in order to be able to implement these programs. And what we did in NREGA 2.2, one of the major innovations we have made is that we are now providing cluster facilitation teams. And I can tell you, this is now in 2014, these initiatives have just taken off. In selected blocks of the country, and Dr. Saxena will be happy to know, it's in the tribal areas where this program really should have been meant for. I have always been an opponent of the fact that this program was extended to all 600 districts so early in its life. We should have focused on the first set of districts, which were the poorest districts.
200 districts.
Yes, exactly, for whom it was meant. Well, anyway, now I am glad to inform you that the government has taken that view. It took a lot of persuasion on my part and many others. We have now cluster facilitation teams, which will service the Gram Panchayats. Clusters of Gram Panchayats will be serviced by groups of professionals who will be able to then provide the kind of human resources and the state capacity which will enable a proper functioning of this program.
Amitabh, you have been part of the kind of monitoring of these kind of schemes and things like that. Would you agree with Mr. Mihir Shah about how to go about this MGA, for instance, NREGA?
And first, I must say that it's a pleasure listening to two stalwarts of governance. But let me also contest what Dr. Saxena said. In fact, I disagree that there was a greater emphasis on social sector. In fact, I would say that there was only lip service to the idea of social sector.
He didn't say there was a social
security.
So
safety
network
programs, safety net programs.
Safety net
network
programs.
programs.
So I would say that, to also look at safety net programs, look at NREGA or Right to Education or the Forest Right Act only as safety net programs
of course not. Education, Forest Rights Act are not safety net programs.
But
it's only food subsidy, Narega,
I would be very uncomfortable in saying, as in my analysis of UPA 1 and 2 is not that the safety net programs there was greater emphasis on that. In fact, I would really say that we designed a lot of very progressive legislations, but we never were very serious about it. Neither did we have the political intent for it, where the political intent seemed far greater in terms of the neoliberal changes that we wanted to have.
That was part of the conflict within the government.
Absolutely. So, B, I think what Mihirji is saying is very critical, that we did not invest in state capacity. So you create these extremely ambitious programs, but you do not create capacities either to deliver or to monitor. And third, I think, which I feel was ironical, that civil society, which could have played a very, very significant role in terms of monitoring these programs. Initially, there was some kind of a honeymoon period with civil society for UPA, but gradually you end up looking at a huge amount of distancing from civil society, and any critical voice was seen and subdued with arrogance instead of really taking
understanding
it as the critical value.
Mr. Saxena, let's say important. Would you agree with that there was a distancing, because initially when this program was started, from Sonia Gandhi onwards, Sonia Gandhi in fact laid a lot of emphasis on civil society act groups, leading these programs and things like that. Did that taper off over a period of time?
Well, in fact, civil society in India has to perform many roles, and of advocacy, of monitoring, oversight, etc. Unfortunately, many civil society people, because they are funded by government, they get co-opted, and they feel very hesitant to criticize government, to take on and to tell government what is missing and where it is missing. Also, civil society people often, they have a very good heart, but thinking has to be done with the brain, not with the heart. That's another problem with the civil society. Now, let me just give you one example. About America. Last government as well as this government is very keen on sanitation. Okay.
Right.
Now, they have done is, they have said, okay, you can spend 4,600 rupees from NBA, that is Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan, and 5,400 rupees from Narega. Now, government is spending 10,000 rupees, but why not give it from one fund?
One fund.
Why have it in two funds?
Exactly.
There's so much a problem of convergence.
Absolutely.
And in Narega, you have to fill so many. This whole philosophy of the two programs is different. It would be much, if government wants to spend 10,000 rupees, then it's much better to give it from one sector.
So what you're saying is there is need for some kind of a mix and match of these programs, rejigging these programs, merging some programs, or, is this what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that the programs which are not doing well, their design needs to be seen first. Whether
can you name 2, 3 what are the programs which are not doing well and which needs this kind of redesign?
I'll give you 2 examples. If you look at the Right to Education Act, it says that there should be no examination. Okay, fine. I'm also not in favor of examination. But where is the system of continuous monitoring of the pupils? That is not being done. It says that private schools should also have a library. They should have a playing ground, etc. If you go to a village, you will find most private schools are being run under a banyan tree.
You're talking of government schools or private
I'm talking
schools?
Private schools.
Private schools.
They are being run under a banyan tree. There's a very good government school with excellent building, but no one goes there because there's no teaching being done. They are studying under a banyan tree. Teacher gets only about 2,000 rupees or sometimes even less. But parents feel that at least they are able to recognize the alphabets and do some counting. So focus is not on quality. I went to a village in East Singhbhum. I asked the students could not do 2-digit subtraction. I asked the collector. He said, sir, no one has ever asked me about this. Government asked me how much money you have spent, how many teachers you have appointed, and how many rooms have been constructed.
So there's no
focus on outcomes.
On quality.
On outcomes. Yes, so therefore that's another problem.
Let me point to one major design flaw which Dr. Saxena has been talking about. One thing that I tried and I could not succeed during the UPA, and I must tell you about and all the viewers, is the whole system of fund flow.
Right.
You know, the fact is that we have a situation where state governments are coming to the center like supplicants. They're looking for the second installment.
Sorry to intervene.
Yes.
At some point of time during the UPA 2, I think, when Chidambaram was speaking about, even in UPA 1, I think.
2006, he had said that outcome orientation would be done.
Not outlay, outcome is more important.
2006
what happened to that?
It's one thing to say that, but what we are talking about is, you know, what are the things that come in the way of ensuring good outcomes on the ground. I was pointing to one factor. See, the requirements of money on the ground do not follow the systems of the finance ministry. You know, after all, nature has its own cycle.
Right.
You know, watershed works have to be done after the agricultural season is over, after the monsoon is over. You are going to work in the summer season. Now, that happens to be in the finance ministry's calculation the second half of the year. You are saying you have to give 80% utilization, then we'll give you the money. What we had proposed, you know, this was a proposal I had worked on with people who have worked in the state governments where experiments have been tried out, where we are saying you will have real-time replenishment of the expenditure that takes place. We have the technology today. Given the advances in IT, we can actually make sure that every person can get real-time transfer of funds, salaries of teachers, you know, one of the reasons, salaries of Anganwadi workers. I mean, after all, we have to also see the conditions of work of these people, the payments to NREGA workers. The biggest problem in this program has been delays in payments of wages. We had worked out a solution which used the best IT, but which required an approval of the finance ministry. I'm sorry, that was not forthcoming. And to the new government, I will appeal that this proposal is fully worked out. I think they should go ahead with it. That would solve a lot of the problems that arise in implementation.
The new government, unfortunately, the rural development minister, you know, unfortunately passed away. But before he passed away, he spoke about how NREGA is going to be improved. I think he was talking about what you had, you know, for productive purposes.
He mentioned my report. You see, the fact is he was talking about productive assets and he was talking about delays in payments of wages.
Right.
I believe is exactly the right focus. If we focus the program on these two essential aspects, this can still be a transformative program for rural India.
See, another very important point is that most of the reports from the state governments are fudged. They are not representing the reality. If you look at Anganwadi records, you will find that according to their records, only 0.5% children are severely malnourished. We are like Norway or Sweden. Whereas NFHS 6.3 says that 17% children are malnourished. And Government of India has been, Prime Minister has been saying it's a national shame. But we have not been able to enforce that the data which flows from the state government is right. No one in India ever dies of starvation. The deaths reported by malaria or cholera, etc., are very, very few. So therefore, unless you also improve your reporting system and ensure that the gap between reported data and the evaluated data is minimized.
Sir, okay, Amitabh, what kind of changes do you expect or want to see in this new in the approach to the social sector program by the new government?
Can I still go back as
you can go back.
I still want to go back because the comment, I think it's a cliched comment. It's a disservice to the civil society, the work civil society has done to say that we only work with large hearts.
No, I think I think he has a point. I mean, you can't say what he's saying
is a lot of brain power in civil society.
There's a lot of brain power. I can seriously challenge that with very, very serious evidence. So I would rest that there. But coming back to your question, I in fact feel extremely worried with the kind of political pronouncements that we've heard. It appears as if now we're going to be looking at far greater emphasis on infrastructure, and which would take away the emphasis from the social sector. And it is really about how you're designing your field.
Amitabh, I think I won't be wrong if I remind you that this change in emphasis had started in the last 2 years itself.
Okay.
Budgets have been reduced
Budgets have
drastically.
been, yeah.
Sure. But now it's a very overtly stated political commitment. In fact, this assumption that the votes also have come around this vision of development, I think needs to be challenged, because whatever small gains that we have made and the potential of bigger gains that we have, we would lose out on that. So therefore, I would feel extremely worried. And in fact, what I also feel is that the more you talk about infrastructure, you're really then you're amplifying the fault lines. It's going to be around land, it's going to be around water, it's going to be around forest, and a lot of conflicts are going to emerge once you.
Those conflicts need to be.
Those conflicts will emerge in a much bigger way.
Let me take Amitabh's point further. Sometimes when we talk of infrastructure, we forget that a sector like water is a crucial infrastructure sector.
Absolutely.
But in the imagination of those who speak of infrastructure, they don't regard water as infrastructure. In the 12th five-year plan, we made a true beginning in terms of, what we call the program of aquifer mapping and aquifer management. Groundwater is India's most important source of water. People don't realize that. All your growth process, etc., will be in great danger if we don't manage our groundwater better. And what do we need? We need participatory approaches where stakeholders are involved, primary stakeholders, the farmers, they are getting together. In some states, 1 million farmers in Andhra Pradesh have come together to sustainably manage their aquifers.
Right.
How? Because they've been empowered with the technical knowledge about the aquifers. So civil society, with due respect to Dr. Saxena, has played a crucial role. It's an FAO-led project. The government of Andhra Pradesh was centrally involved, and civil society organizations actually communicated to the farmers in such a way, in most innovative ways, which helped them understand the water balance. And that has helped so much to ensure water security, which is crucial to food security in this country.
No, so you think that the vision of the present government needs to be focused in that direction, and you think that it's focused?
No, absolutely. That is the direction they should take. We don't know yet, because these are programs which have been enunciated. They're part of the 12th plan. They've been funded. What I'm saying is, I'm urging the new government to take these initiatives forward. It's not good to discard everything that was being done in the past. If there is something good which has been initiated, I think it should be strongly supported. And what Amitabh is saying, I think civil society participation, the community participation, the participation of panchayats in this whole initiative at the grassroots in water security is extremely important, including the watershed programs that Dr. Saxena was talking about.
Also, I would say that, in order to improve funding for social sector, whether it is health or education, you also need more revenues.
You said that earlier.
With tax GDP ratio falling from 11.5% to 8.5%. India's tax collection is much less than what Ghana collects or Kenya collects. So therefore, our total, if you count both Government of India and the state government, our tax GDP ratio is 15%. It is 35% in Thailand. It is 32% in South Africa. So if we compare ourselves with middle income countries, we are not even half that level.
What you're saying is that there is a danger that the social sector allocations may further go down.
Unless you also improve your tax collection.
That can't happen overnight.
That can happen if you improve your tax rates. Why should dividend be free? You can say, okay, up to 10 lakh rupees dividend is free, rest we will tax.
Mihir Shah, one more thing. In fact, Mr. Saxena, just one small question. You think that a body like the National Advisory Committee would be useful for this government also? Or is it something which was a UPA creation, and it would have worked only for a UPA government?
Well, in fact, you do require some kind of a think tank to advise government, whether it is the Planning Commission or some kind of a council which is set up in the PMO, etc. Because unfortunately, most secretaries in Government of India, they have been very remote from the ground situation. So therefore, you do require some mediation between policymakers and those who understand what is going on in the field.
Mr. Mihir Shah, I'm sure what is your view on this? Because, you were in the planning commission. I don't know how you people viewed the National Advisory Committee.
No, I actually happened also later to be in
we
the
had
National
different
Advisory
reports.
He was also
No,
a member.
you see, I think the point
He was
is,
earlier.
so long as there is coordination and there is a smooth functioning across departments, because you do need, I think the Planning Commission played an important role, I would say, so long as it was suggesting reforms, which in fact were facilitating states and ministries to function better. If it becomes like a command and control authority bossing around, that was a very negative model. I wrote about it in the Planning Commission days also. I think that is an outdated model. But what we do require is a body which would come up with innovative ideas and which would facilitate the moving forward of reforms in the implementation of our flagship programs, for example. I think that is a very important role that the Planning Commission was playing.
Yes, Amitabh, one more thing is, towards the end of the 2013, towards the end of 2013, an independent evaluation commission was sought to be set up by the Rural Development Ministry. And has it taken off?
No, there's an independent evaluation office in the Planning Commission, the attached office of the Planning Commission.
Also
it has
in the
taken
rural
off.
development.
It has just started. The Rural Development Ministry also has set up a concurrent evaluation network.
Exactly. The Rural Development, so were there was a problem as far as the Planning Commission was concerned, saying that those two will be clashing.
No, I think that was resolved. I think
that has been resolved.
Yeah, that was resolved.
And
but
you think the government should continue this?
Yes, I would think evaluation, as Dr. Saxena was saying, monitoring and evaluation is crucial to the improvement in the performance of our flagship schemes on which we are spending such large amounts of money.
So, yes.
Girish, I just wanted to make a fundamental point. Whenever we get into conversations of the social sector, we start getting into the technicalities of either the design, what's happening on the ground. I think we miss the fundamental question. And the fundamental question is of governance failure across, whether it's education, health, NREGA, and where is that governance failure? One of the biggest problems is that we don't have enough of oversight, people's oversight over governance structures, governance processes. So I think until unless we start relooking, almost inverting the pyramid and start looking at the questions of governance from the people's lens, I don't really see that these are technical solutions. So I completely agree with Mihirji that you cannot have a centralized planning process, but you do need a far more innovative way, almost reimagining a way of getting inputs from common people, from civil societies. Okay. I think that fundamental shift is critical.
I want both of you to quickly, when we're completely run out of time, as far as this new government is concerned, what do you expect them to, as far as, Mr. Saxena spoke right at the beginning about the productive expenditure and safety net expenditure. Do you expect this government to balance these two? How do you think it will be? Because these are programs which are, the UPS programs were, as he was rightly pointing out, it was more inclined towards the safety net program.
See, I'm a person who works on the ground. 25 years I've lived in a tribal village in Madhya Pradesh. I've worked there across central India. And my view is that, when you look at it, programs from that angle, then whether it's a BJP government or the Congress government, in fact, the best examples at times of NREG implementation came in BJP-run states. Right. So I don't think there is this distinction so much, because the necessity of these programs is clearly felt by the people of this country. I cannot see a government tampering with them except at its own jeopardy.
Well, I would like to make one point here, because our Prime Minister has been Chief Minister of Gujarat. And Gujarat is a prosperous state, has done quite well. Therefore, his outlook is that we need to give greater autonomy to the states, right, so that they can function, and Government of India's control should be minimized. That may work well with the states which have good governance. But let's not forget that there are rogue states. There are states like UP and Jharkhand, which you have to supervise. You have to, in fact, look at their performance. Otherwise, if you give them funds, UP will immediately appoint a large number of class 4 employees and of their own caste, and they will take money in their recruitment.
I think on that note, we need to end. Challenges are many, as my very distinguished guests pointed out. The new government, I'm sure, will be working on these kind of challenges. We'll have to wait and watch how they will meet these challenges, how the social sector programs will work under the new government. We'll wait and watch. Thanks to all my guests, Dr. N.C. Saxena, Mihir Shah, and Amitabh Behar. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture, same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.